I'm really curious because you were drafted by the team in 1991,
Mhm.
and you got to keep in mind, I think when Montana came here, we had just moved to the United States, so this sport was something we had no idea about. We didn't know who Joe Montana was. Uh, can you describe to me what the feeling was like, what the reactions were like when you, your teammates, the city all found out that Joe Montana was coming to Kansas City?
Oh, absolutely, Farzin. It was look. I'll backtrack up a little bit. So '91, I get drafted by the Chiefs. They're coming off
Yeah.
of a playoff year, right? It's the new era. It's the Marty era, right? It's the Carl and Marty era, and so they go to the playoffs in 1990, and things are so super exciting, right? I mean, the fact that it had been the first playoff in forever, Steve DeBerg, a name, Christian Okoye, right, Tecmo Bowl superstar, it just, the Chiefs were starting to build at that point, right? And they were becoming a team that people started to think about again. And then we go through the 91 season playoffs, right? We with the rivalry with the Raiders is like reformed and rebuilt. We pick up this rivalry with the Broncos, right? So the Chargers, we played the Chargers in the playoffs in 1992. Like the AFC West was becoming, Seattle was coming into prominence, right, at that point, the Cortez Kennedy era. And it was just an exciting time to be part of the AFC West. Then Joe Montana and Marcus Allen show up, and it just took things to the next level. I mean, it raised the profile of the city, the team, the organization, like beyond, I think, anybody's wildest dreams. I'll tell you a funny story about how that all sort of came to, or at least to make the connection and the correlation between the excitement that the city had. So we used to go to training camp in River Falls, Wisconsin, right? So
Yeah.
we moved training camp from Liberty, Missouri to River Falls my rookie year. That was the first year. And they tried so hard in the town, I should say, of River Falls. It was a town of, I think, if my recollection serves me right, I think it was a town of about 7,000 off college. And then when the students were there, it was like a town of like 9,000, right? It was like 2,000 students at the University of River Falls, Wisconsin, part of the the UW chain of schools, right? 10
Yeah.
schools. So Division III, mostly known for hockey, typical Division III stadium, and they tried so hard, Farzin. Like they had us come in on the like the 3 fire engines, fire trucks that they had in the whole town. The next movie theater was in Hudson, Wisconsin, which was a good 20-minute drive. You could go to the Mall of America in Minneapolis, but it was like a 45, 50-minute drive. So we were out there, and they tried, but like even with all the hype, I remember going to church one Sunday when we were up there in River Falls, and the priest is finishing up the service, and he says, "Hey, I just want all you Chiefs, welcome, thank you all." But he goes, "This is the part of Mass when we all pray for the Packers." And I was like, "Oh man, we're in your town and we can't get any respect, right?" So we would get like, and even with the parades, there'd be a couple hundred people would come to practice. They would watch us, and you could actually like hear the fans like talking about you. "Oh man, that's 73. He's slow." Or you could actually hear them. There was so few people watching us at practice. And I was used to growing up going to Eagles practices in Philadelphia, and like there was thousands of people would go, right, to see the Eagles practice, even when they were bad. And so, we go through 91, 92, still playoffs, the Chiefs are rising, and then Montana and Marcus Allen come. So put it into perspective, we go up to training camp in 1993 for Joe's first year there, first training camp, and Marcus as well. And we're going out on our first day out on the field, doing an acclimation practice, basically helmets, shorts, T-shirts, jerseys, no shoulder pads, no nothing, just nothing but a helmet to go out, stretch, get our sea legs, go through some drills, get used to the practice environment, get used to the grass and everything. And Alex Gibbs was our offensive line coach at the time, right? And he had this great like North Carolina accent, and it's hard for a kid from South Philly to do a Southern accent, but I try. And Alex he played defensive back at Davidson College, right? So he was all of 5'6", right? And here he is coaching these, which by the way will always in my mind be one of the best offensive line coaches the NFL's ever seen. And so we're walking out to practice, and we used to dress in the hockey stadium, like the hockey facility, and you had a blind spot getting to the football field. And we were turning the corner around the hockey facility going out to the field, and you could hear this like this dull. So like we're like, what the heck is going on? So we turned the corner, standing room only, 5,000 plus people packed into this Division III stadium. Stands are full, right? All the track around the track where the field is lined, everybody's standing like 2 deep to watch us in shoulder pads, or not even in shoulder pads, in shorts and helmets, do a walkthrough. So Alex stops us, right? He's whoa, and then tried to do my Southern accent. He was from North Carolina. He goes, boys. He goes, take a look at those stands, and we're all like, oh my God, look at all these people. He goes, I just want you to I want to tell you one thing, guys, they ain't here to see you.
I remember you told me that. That's pretty funny.
And he's like, and your jobs, they got a whole lot more important. So let's go have a good practice. And we're all like biting our nails at that point, like, oh my God, like this, and like to me, that just, I know it was a really long story. I mean, it gets so long-winded, but like that summarizes and gives the perspective of how much the organization was risen up at that point because of Marcus Allen and Joe Montana, right? And granted, we had stars, Derek Thomas, Christian Okoye, blah, blah, blah. But it just epitomizes the elevation of the team in 1993.
Well, I mean, nowadays, a lot of these players, when they find out an acquisition about their team, generally they find out through Twitter. How did you find out about Joe Montana going to the Chiefs?
I was actually I was at the stadium, and I was in the weight room with Dave Redmond and Russ Ball, our strength coaches at the time. And, we had televisions and stuff. And in the off season, so, it's not that like it's casual, but it's more casual than during the season. So TVs are on, guys are working on the treadmill, they're watching TV or whatever. And that's where I learned. I was in the weight room at the Arrowhead complex, down the parking lot from the stadium, and I saw it come on the news. They had flashed a kind of a breaking news that the deal with Joe Montana was about to be struck, and that he was coming to Kansas City. And we're all looking around at each other like, all right, is it April 1st? Like, what's going on here? Like, is this really happening? Like Joe Montana is coming to Kansas City? Like, we were, in 1991 and 1992, it was Barry Word left, Christian Okoye right. Jonathan Hayes was a half a lineman tight end, right? I mean, we had basically 6 linemen if you consider Jonathan, right? He was a blocking tight end, and he had great hands, but he was an extension of our line. We were a smash mouth Marty Ball, Cleveland Browns offensive football team, right? We weren't Joe Montana. Like, what are you talking about? Like, and we were like, well, I guess these mini camps are going to be a lot different than the last ones, because we're going to have a playbook to recognize. I mean, we on a dime, we went from running the ball, I don't know, 40 to 50 times a game to the West Coast offense, which was it was great, and it was interesting to watch the way that the team changed over, right? And the kinds of players that we started to bring in that sort of fit that mold. And I think the biggest changes were really up front. I was just very, very lucky that I didn't get caught up in the wash, because if you look back at some of the players that we had or linemen that we had, Rich Baldinger, Dave Lutz, those guys were from the old school, smash mouth, football. And so, luckily I didn't get caught up in that, and I was able to use my athletic ability to stick around for a few more years. And a lot of us had to make that make that switch to being a more mobile, more mobile offense, and having to do a little bit more pass blocking than we were used to.